Welcome back to today's episode of Guardians. Today we're going to talk about being a mature believer and what does that mean. Scripture often refers to maturity as perfect or the perfecting of the saints. So it's talking about the growth of the saints to maturity. And what does that mean? Well, maturity means to know the word and be able to apply it in every situation. So today I wanted to specifically talk about immature leadership and how that can hurt people. So the word tells us that Moses tried to jumpstart his ministry. He tried to prematurely enter into the ministry that he knew that God had for him. So in Acts 7 verses 23 and 25, it shows us that Moses knew that he was a Hebrew and that he was called to deliver the Israelites from Egyptian slavery. However, he did it prematurely. He was 10 years premature. See, in Genesis 15 and 13, the Lord told Abraham that his descendants would be delivered from Egyptian slavery in 400 years. In Exodus 12 and 40, it says that it was exactly 430 years to the day when the Israelites came out of Egypt. So that meant that if the 40 years Moses spent in the wilderness after killing the Egyptian is subtracted from the total of years, the 430 years, then it shows us that according to the Genesis 15 and 13 prophecy, that it was 319 years when Moses killed the Egyptians. So he was 10 years early in trying to free the Egyptians. So his prematurity cost the Israelites 30 additional years of slavery. That's a whole generation of people. So Hebrews 11 and 24 and 25 says that it was an act of faith for Moses to identify with his brethren, and he chose to suffer affliction with them. So when Moses killed the Egyptian in defense of his brother, his Jewish brother, he knew what he was doing. He knew that he was called to free the people from Egyptian slavery. However, it was just early, and he did this out of his own strength. He didn't do this led by God. He did this out of his own strength. God didn't tell him to go and kill an Egyptian, right? So Moses thought that since he was born into the Pharaoh's household, and that he had this powerful stance in the Egyptian community, that he was going to free the slaves on his own terms through his position and his power. But that was not God's plan. God had a plan of total deliverance, even from the idolatry of Egypt. So there was more to it than Moses just using what he already had accomplished and his success and things like that to his advantage. God had a plan for him. However, he tried to jumpstart that plan, and it cost him. And then, so that makes us think, how many people do we hurt when we try to jumpstart God's plan for our life? I heard a story about Gandhi one time, that in Africa, he had read the New Testament through 2 or 3 times, and that he had determined that Jesus is the Messiah. Jesus is the Son of God. And so he went to a Christian church to be saved and to join Christianity. However, when he got there, because of the color of his skin, they turned him away. And so now this great man with influence, he's influenced millions of people, goes to this church, and because of their immaturity and their poor witness of the kingdom, he does not become saved. He does not join. He does not enter into Christianity. And Christianity is not the big deal, but the relationship with God that he should have had somebody help him to understand. They were a poor witness and they hurt him. And so he's on record as saying that he did not become a Christian because of how he had met Christians. So the Christians he met turned him away from faith. So that is a terrible, devastating thing to hear somebody say. And how many of us have heard young people say the same thing, that when they met Christians, when they went to a church, they were hurt, and so they turned from God? Well, we need to put a stop to that, don't we? All right. So thank you for joining me this episode of Guardians. This has been your host, Rebecca Brindle, and thank you so much for joining me. Tune in again, and we're going to go more into the maturity and the things that we need to know to be able to answer questions. Thank you, guys.